Welcome to the Jake Rouse Show. Today, my guest is Gary Horton. For those of you who born and raised in Erie, you probably have heard of Gary Horton. You definitely have heard of the Horton family. But if you're not from Erie, Gary and I became acquainted at the very beginning of my career when I was working here in Erie in economic development, and he was working for Mayor Joyce Savacchio. Gary comes from a large family with a storied history of advocacy. His passion will be self-evident as you listen to our discussion today, and we are likely to agree to disagree at some point or two. I'm excited to catch up with my friend and dive deep into the state of advocacy in our community and our country and a whole host of other things that we have a tendency to talk about. I hope you enjoy. Gary, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
Good to have you here. I was just about to tell you as we were chatting. I kind of told you. I said, "Give me that, please." Like that's what I said for the form.
Yes.
I put the "please" at the back end.
Okay.
Which is not very nice because it's
I
very
understood
direct.
it no matter what.
Yeah. Give that to me, please.
Did you get it?
That's regardless.
Regardless.
It's not very nice. It's a habit that I've gotten into over the years, and I need to change it. Gary Horton, it's a pleasure to have you here. I was thinking the other day that you and I believe, met probably, we met probably 1991. How about that?
Somewhere around there.
As you were working for the mayor.
Yes.
And I was doing some work. I was working in economic development, but I can remember I was doing work in minority economic development. I was working.
I met you before then.
Did you?
When you were doing something with a civic group.
You know what? It could have been that I did something on the community credit needs analysis. I could have met you there.
You worked with us on that as well. But didn't you work with the transportation guy?
Oh, this is Tom Hoffman.
Tom Hoffman.
But when I first met you was actually before that. I met you before that because my work with Hayes Moses, Braxton Vaughn, Betty Walker. I know I'm
Uniflow.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Bob Plain.
Yep, I was working for Bob Plain at the time. Anyway, that's
more than 30
years ago. It's crazy. So, anyways, it's good to see you, and I wanna dig in a little bit on you, and let me just start off with a couple of basic questions.
Sure.
How many siblings in your family? You come from a family of?
I come from a family of 11 children.
Okay.
6 girls, 5 boys.
And where do you fall in that?
Right, almost smack dab in the middle.
And are they all still with us?
No, I have, my parents had Irish twins. So my oldest sister is gone. She died during COVID years. My sister that was 11 months younger than me died in 2019, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, 11 months older than me, died in 2023. So I have one brother and 2 sisters that are gone.
I'm sorry. I just when you get to our age, you ask. I've lost 3, so I get it.
It happens.
Yeah.
I tell my grandkids I'm going to be gone one day also.
How many grandkids?
I have three grandsons.
That's awesome. And I see your one grandson quite a bit, or I see you because your grandson, my stepson, played on the same basketball team this past year.
Yes, and I've been blessed with one daughter who is an assistant principal at Strong Vincent Middle School.
Give her a call out.
Yes,
What's her?
Angelina Horton Dickerson. And then I have been blessed with 3 grandsons. Kingston Neal, who has my middle name, who's a senior at McDowell. and I have a middle grandson whose name is David, and then I have the youngest grandson. His name is Lincoln.
They keep you busy, don't they?
Well, a good busy, joyous busy, and um, actually beyond having a child my own self, the joy of my life.
That's awesome.
Being able to celebrate and participate in their upbringing.
Well, I know how proud you are of your daughter,
Amen.
and that's going back for decades.
For a few
of
years, yes.
hearing that. So, congratulations on that. And great young men and women don't just happen.
No. Some of it is destiny, and some of it is intentional. Being fortunate enough to be blessed with caring parents and a good village system. I do believe it takes a village, and family is a part of that village, and then friends, and then just working at it.
So let's jump off there because you learned you've been a very an activist your whole life, I would say, at least the time that I've been with you, and I have to believe that emanated from your mother and father. Would that be an accurate description? And tell me a little bit about their background and kind of what it was like growing up in the Horton household relative to politics and being aware and standing up for yourself and your beliefs.
Wow, I could write a book about that. I was blessed to have two caring parents. My mom had a ninth grade education.
What were their names? Your
Mildred.
Okay.
Mildred Smith Horton. Came to Erie from Laurel, Mississippi as a young girl, and met my father. They got married young. My father's name was Howard Rudolph Horton. He was born in Erie. His family came to Erie, the Hortons, in 1912 or 13. So we've been around a while. My earliest memory of being involved in politics was during the election of John Kennedy to president. My oldest sister, Janet, was a Kennedy girl. My dad worked on his election, and I can remember my siblings and I distributing literature.
How old were you then, do you think?
I was 8 years old.
8 years old.
Right. And I followed that pattern by involving other young children in civic life early. I've helped register people to vote and do things like that young people can certainly be engaged and a part of. And so my parents were young. They were followers of Dr. Martin Luther King's philosophy of peaceful nonviolence. They both were active in their unions. My father was president of the Labor's Local 603 when I was a kid. Matter of fact, my father joined that union 9 days after I was born.
Wow.
He was a certified bricklayer, but never accepted or provided membership into the Bricklayers Union. So he was a laborer all his life. I've done labor work, my brothers, my sisters. We've all had an opportunity to work the trades. My parents were, my mom was active in the union. As a matter of fact, one of her employers, Erie Technological Products.
Yeah, I remember them. I
West
had a brother
11th
who worked
Street.
there, actually.
Well, they were on strike for about 3 years. And
Isn't that where... Did Erie Technological Products become Modern Industries?
no.
Or was it located
It was in
then?
the same area or location. It was Erie Resistors first.
That's right.
And it was a
Okay.
mostly female shop. And and it was right on West 11th Street in that area that from Liberty to Sassafras Street that was redeveloped at one time. Red line, gentrification, all of those terms I would apply to our living experience in that neighborhood.
Where did you grow up? Where, was that your neighborhood?
That was my neighborhood.
West 10th, West 11th?
West 11th Street, 300 block, 333 West 11th Street.
What's there now?
Parking lots. And the work that's being done at Ironworks Square today is a place that was called Erie Malibu. Iron at that time. And a lot of the people from West 11th Street worked over there. I grew up in a church that was, the pastor was Reverend Ernest Franklin Smith, who started the first training for Negro women nurses. He started the Smith Negro Welfare Association, and he helped resettle families from the South and the migration from Laurel, Mississippi to Erie, Pennsylvania during those years. And that church was First Good Samaritan AME Zion Church. He had a mission prior to purchasing that church. He was befriended by the late H.O. Hurt. And I remember meeting Mr. Hurt on many occasions, coming to our neighborhood, and through his relationship with Reverend Smith. Reverend Smith often told the young people in that neighborhood, I'm proud to say I was someone who was mentored by him. And
How did they get connected, and what was their connection?
I don't know how they got connected, but I knew this. I learned this from Reverend Smith, that he was recruited by the late Booker T. Washington to be a student at Tuskegee University. And he ran errands for Dr. George Washington Carver. So he was an educated man from the South who once told me he was threatened and chased out of the South. And at some point in time, the church assigned him up here in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
With his background in education, I believe he reached out to H.O. Hurt to help our West 11th Street community and the church at that time. And so I had the new chairman, Tom Hagen, recalled to me on several occasions that when he came to Erie Insurance at that time, H.O. Hurt assigned him to Reverend Smith to take care of the requests that Reverend Smith had for our neighborhood and our church.
That is pretty cool.
So I grew up in a family that was active, and a church that was active, in a neighborhood that was active. And so I bring that history and experience to some of the thoughts that I've developed as a longtime resident native of the Erie community.
When President Kennedy won the election, did you feel a great sense of excitement because you played a role in that? And did your family? Was there genuine excitement?
There was genuine excitement. It may not have been around the role we played. Certainly, we recognized that we were on his team, but I think we were swept up in the jubilation of the whole country about the Kennedy presidency and the opportunity that he presented. And to make Americans believe is ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And then watching the videos and the pictures of his Hamlet type style growing up.
Sure.
And so I think we embraced that as much as anyone did in our country at the time. Very optimistic about America, even though it was in the middle of some challenging issues that impacted the lives of people of color.
So you're 8 years old. You're helping out with the Kennedy campaign, And so that means in 1968, one of the most, you know, signature years for not great reasons, but just a transition point in American history, you're 16 years old when Dr. King gets killed. And so tell me what that was like as a member of the black community here. I mean, what were the feelings that, because you've lived, you know, what were the feelings? Was it anger, frustration, sadness, hurt? I mean, I'm sure it was all of them, but I'm, as someone who lived through it, and what was the environment like here in Erie at that time?
Well, let me set this up by going backwards first. Our jubilation of the Kennedy presidency was short lived because we felt the sting and the hurt that America experienced when Kennedy was assassinated in front of our eyes. And I can remember playing on the playground at Longfellow Elementary School when they came and told us that the president had been assassinated, and I think everyone at the school just started bawling, crying, and it had a traumatic effect or impact on us. I can remember Dr. King's early years of, and also in '63, his arrest and the unrest that was happening in the South, in Birmingham and Selma and Montgomery during those years, by having young parents who were active and interested in those issues. And so,
Did they travel south at all for any of the demonstrations? I'm sure there were family
we were poor.
members.
We were too poor to go with a wagon load of kids. But I had some of my older siblings. My older sister Cheryl was able to go on one of the trips. But there were a lot of people from Erie that, like this, some of the students at Mercyhurst College then was all women's school. Some of them went to like Selma and Montgomery. I knew of those. I was aware of the tension and the violence. I was aware when the kids, when King got arrested in '63 and his life was threatened. I was aware that students walked out of the classrooms against their parents' desires or wishes. I was 11 years old when that happened. I was 11 years old when Kennedy was assassinated. So in 1965, I was 13 years old when Malcolm X was assassinated. I remember the Selma to Montgomery March and all the tension that existed around that. And so I was, as a family, affected and positively being very socially conscious about what was going on in our country and learning the role that young people were playing in it.
Yeah, very significant.
So at the time when 1968 came around and Dr. King was assassinated, it was followed up by Robert Kennedy also being assassinated. And it was, when we look back at our generation experiencing that kind of trauma, I always felt that no generation in America had experience like we did, how America was killing its own leaders in that, and the fallout or impact of that. So I was more or less considered militant in high school. I was aware of the Black Panthers. I was aware of what King and were doing. I was aware of the work that the Muslims or Black Muslims were doing, the split between the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. And so, and then right after that, there was Kent State and the Vietnam War, and the fact that more people my age were going to Vietnam and dying when they didn't even have the right to vote. I was 18 when they changed the law, giving 18-year-olds the right to vote. So I was 19 when that law went into effect and voted for the first time in my life. and have been a voter every year since then. So I felt like our generation in America, society, has been a special one and has experienced things like no other generation. And I've heard how some of the older people talk about growing up during World War II and some of the other conflicts that we've had. But over time, I think the impact of our growing up in America was unlike during any other period of time.
Well, especially as you lay it out there, I know all of those facts, but hearing it from someone who lived through it firsthand and then thinking about the layers of it's easy to kind of not understand in this day and age where how we get our information and how we interact with one another. And at the time in which you were, growing up in the middle of this, it was central to your daily existence.
Even to the point that while those were national influencers on our life, to know that we lived in a segregated school system in our own city, where there were a lot of challenges and differences and discriminatory practices existing right here. And some of the same issues we face today around housing, around access to quality education. I always knew I was going to college, and that I think our
Why did
generation
you
was
know?
the first. Well, my parents were the issues, our awareness that there were HBCUs, there were places that we could go that wanted us and that gave us a different kind of an experience. And I attended Hampton Institute in Virginia as a freshman. We had riots there. The National Guard came and closed our school down. I had to leave school early and go stay in a hotel till my parents could come and pick me up. And I ultimately ended up transferring to Cheney, where I graduated from, which is the oldest HBCU in the country. Prior to that, I was able to be a part of youth movements here in our own city, where we had trouble in the high schools, where ironically on April 3rd, 1968, we had a what some would call a riot at one of the high schools. A student and a teacher got into an infraction.
Was it at Academy?
Academy, and many of my friends were involved in that. There was a fear that it would spread across the city, and ultimately, we ended up having problems at Strong Vincent, where I went to school, and that. So I remember those days. I remember graduating from high school and having two different separate prom, and I remember in high school never having a black teacher until I went to college, never having a black counselor or any of those things. And so, well, Erie has come a long way, but it still has a long way to go. As I, just while we're thinking about these things, recognizing that there's some areas where little or no progress has been made, like in housing. I think it's almost criminal that African Americans have been in this community for just short of 100 years and to have such a poor home ownership rate. And I believe that
I think the home ownership rate, if I'm not mistaken, for African Americans in this community has gone backwards.
yes, it is.
And I had this, I can't remember specifically who it was, but was that one of as someone who's practiced economic development, one of the greatest impacts on income for African American homes and home ownership was the contraction of the manufacturing sector here in Erie, because they were the first out the door. So as our workforce shrank, the number of quality jobs disproportionately hit the black community.
Yeah, when you add that to the trades not being open to African Americans, another area where you could earn a decent wage to take care of your family, and then in government, in that, so it's almost been the systemic.
What do you mean in government? Government
Well,
jobs?
government jobs for the schools, for the county, for the city, for the state. Um, I've seen many people raise their families in those particular areas. So when you add that kind of painting, the point you make on the contraction of manufacturing jobs, the non-access to family wage sustaining jobs in the trades, and then being locked out of government at the same time, there's no way for minorities to have maintained that home ownership rate or expand it. And what we've had over the last 50 or 60 years is really, in my opinion, landlords feast on a certain population, and that they could charge what they want. They could put you in any quality of a house that they wanted to,
So
and
you
you
kind
had
of
no
get
other
locked
choices.
into an economic situation. But my issue with home ownership is that it is the single most popular. It's the one way in which individuals can accumulate equity and wealth, and then use that equity for leveraging it into so many other things that open up opportunities for both family members and themselves.
Generally,
Generally, it
but
is.
not for all people.
No, that's
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you on that. What I'm saying is that is why home ownership is so fundamental. It's fundamental equally for the individuals and for the families to move up economically, but it's equally important from the standpoint of neighborhood stabilization. You want homeowners in neighborhoods. You don't want those homes being rented out if you can avoid it, because folks own the property and they live there. They have a tendency to take care of neighborhoods and make them safe and make them attractive and beautiful and a great place to raise families. But home ownership overall is decreasing. And now we're in a space where the price of home ownership has gone up. It's spiked, post the pandemic. The pandemic really, I'd say, in the Erie market, gave us about 10 years of appreciation in home value in about 2. And so the prices of things have all gone up. So that just makes the barrier of owning a home, acquiring a home, that first home, even more challenging.
And if you can recall, something you mentioned earlier in this conversation where we met was around a credit needs analysis. And if we did a credit needs analysis today, I predict there would be many similarities where access to credit would percolate to the top as one of the barriers to people of color for being able to purchase a home. I know people who live in public housing who pay $1,500, $1,600 a month for rent for several years. That's 2 mortgages. At one time, it was 3. But they can go to a financial institution and not have the credit or trust to purchase their own home. That's public housing. And then I know today we have people who work every day that are living in some of our neighborhoods because of the lack of access to affordable quality housing, are paying far more than the house is worth. And the landlords are taking advantage of them. And whether it's been the populations of people of color who've been here for years, or whether it's the new Americans that come who are subjected to the same barriers and or challenges of acquiring home ownership.
Well, what's the let me say that when I did that community credit needs analysis, I remember one of my observations was is that financial institution my youthful naivete was that banks weren't biased against people because of they were biased against individuals who didn't have money. That's what I observed. They, the old joke that they would loan you, they, give you an umbrella on a sunny day, that they were very risk averse even then, and now they're even more so. What you're outlining is people who have the capacity and have shown like they've been paying this much for this number of years and they can't get a loan to acquire a property. And
or fix up a property.
Or fix up a property. And so, but this issue of home ownership, has it been at the forefront? I mean, to me, I know that affordable housing and quality housing has been out there as an issue, but within the minority community yourself, is it something that you've been fighting for, that you've been banging on the table about, or is it one of many things that is an issue and a challenge for the Black community?
I've been fighting for many things. I recognize that there are people better equipped and prepared and experienced to provide quality home ownership opportunities for people that are building houses. I don't think, I don't think the financial institutions or government who has tools and resources to help, I don't think they prioritize those issues to target. As an example, like they're talking about doing for homeless people now. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have a homeless problem in our community, and the more successful that we are in dealing with it, we'll have more homeless. Because I believe if you did an analysis of who our homeless population is, you'd find out that a significant number of them are from other places. They're not local homeless people. They're homeless people who have been put on a bus, provided with a one-way ticket and a sandwich to come to a place like Erie, Pennsylvania, and to recognize that being homeless in Erie is a little different than being homeless in New York City.
Is that an urban legend or is that fact?
I say it's a fact. And I would say that another fact is there are homeless people who don't want to be housed.
Well, that I know firsthand.
Okay.
That one I've had those discussions. I shouldn't say firsthand. It's secondhand from people who own properties in the downtown area that have spent time talking with them.
Yes.
And it's not once, but like multiple days where they're coming in the morning to go into their building that they own or their office, and it's 6 a.m. and these folks are there. And so they've struck up relationships, and a number of them do not want to.
And some of them have mental problems.
Sure,
I would say a significant number of them are veterans that surprise some people. And so they're not one group in that, and it's certainly they need services.
But let's
and
go back to that.
Certainly they should have a home.
Yeah.
My point is that how we're targeting dealing with the homelessness situation, we should balance that as a way to address people who have been in this community for ages, generations, target providing resources and solutions that aim to mitigate or fix that or improve on that problem or challenge, just like we're targeting homelessness and that. And I don't think it's fair to have a single focus, and or if you provide resources, we're going to make them available to current homeowners or to landlords, and not really giving the people the hand up, because everybody's not looking for a handout, but a hand up that they need to either fix their property up, maintain their property, or if they're young, starting a new family, the tools and resources that would help them be able to gain a quality housing opportunity.
It is a scale issue. And let me just go off a little bit here. So the build project that you're talking about, where they're looking at the old admin building that was the school district's building on 22nd or 3rd and Sass. The scale of the homelessness population in Erie is, and again, I'm generally, it's about 250 bodies. And so the scale of 250 is manageable, that it's identified, there's some framework, the cost of addressing that. And again, it's a very complex, challenging issue to do what they're doing, but they're moving forward on a project. The scale of that is manageable. The scale of what you just articulated as far as the individuals and the people that we'd like to help, the scale goes up. I mean, it's a solid, you're going to go from 250 to a minimum of 2,500. You might go to 5,000 individuals that we need to assist and help. That's not an excuse. It is a reality that we have to recognize, that the solution on that front. And so that is where I think there is discussion about affordable housing. There's a lot of individuals or organizations looking at it. The neighborhood groups, I believe, in Best and our West Bayfront are looking at home ownership strategies and taking steps there. But the scale just doesn't catch up. And you would know probably more firsthand. I worry that we're going, for the improvements that we are making and some progress that we're making on some fronts, we may be going backwards on others. And the housing stock that we have in existence, some of it is salvageable and some of it is just not. And I want to go back further to the out-of-town homeowners that are landlords, because not all the landlords that are charging these rents and allowing people to live in substandard conditions are local at all. They're out-of-town landlords. So let me ask you this. I believe that we have a mayor, and Mayor Devlin, who's come into office with her eyes pretty wide open to these challenges and is prepared to do what she can through the city's devices, from the standpoint of code enforcement and working and trying to get and make sure that people have safe places to live first and foremost, and then fairly priced places to live. What is your assessment on that?
Well, number one, I'm very optimistic about the mayor that we have. And I believe that she recognizes that the status quo is the enemy. It's not sustainable for growing our community. And the fact that she didn't just start listening to people, it's been a part of her DNA. And when you look at the new county executive and just some of the advances women made in the last local, election, I'm optimistic about being able to manage our expectations constructively. I believe that if we look at the $1 billion or more worth of investment that has been made in our downtown or waterfront central part of the city, we could have realized more for the community with tools like CBAs, community benefit agreements. Government can't solve our problem by itself. And, they have to do their part, but the private sector has to do their part also. And I don't think enough of the private sector respects the fact that poor people buy their products and buy their services and are a part of their bottom line and therefore deserve something else in return and not a handout. To me, it makes good business sense to invest back into the people who are affecting your bottom line so positively. I'm an advocate for community benefit agreements, and I find it hard to accept that one race or one group can be the sole beneficiary of a $36 million project or a $100 million project or a $40 million project. Those projects add up. And I just think when you look at them individually or collectively, they're missed opportunities to bring the community along with you, and that to leverage what you're doing to benefit those that government doesn't have the resources to help. But government recognizes there's a need there, and the government at the same time recognizes that they don't have the tools and the resources to address it. I think government has to do a better job in convincing the private sector, who knows how to get out of government the things that they need or want to advance their, uh, their what they want to do, how to do more to help government meet the needs of the people who need help.
Well, let's just let's zero in on that, because I believe both the city and during my time at the chamber, one of the things that was interesting is we believe, and I'm pretty sure this is true, that there's a commitment. There's been a commitment and something passed by ordinance by the city and by the county about a commitment of dollars committed to support minority-owned businesses out of their general fund expenses. It's 10% or something. Okay, you might say, well, that's not enough, but regardless. But there's zero documentation of that ever being followed through on or acted on. And why is that? One, I don't know if people are aware of it, and if you're not aware of it, you can't enforce it. That's number one. Number two is, if it's janitorial services, if it's supplies, if it's tech support, whatever it might be, that you're spending general fund dollars on, the easy out is to say, are you a certified minority business? Because if you're not, then that's an out. Like, you need to be certified, and there's a process to become certified. So to me, when you start talking about implementing community benefit agreements, I'm not going to push back on that, but I think it would help a lot if the city and the county were living that message of their commitment to saying we can do our part to equalize the playing field. And then candidly, I think there does need to be a commitment to help get more businesses to be formally certified, because when the city and the county start to walk that walk, they can then turn to other major employers and saying, we expect this of you as well. And then if you're doing a CBA, you're saying, hey, this is part of how we do business in Erie. We need to see that. So it's real easy to, what you're talking about and the change that you've fought for and you continue to fight for, it's incredibly hard work because of something that you said that Mayor Devlin is, and that's status quo. So much comes flying at you as the mayor or the county executive. It's easy to just say, we're just going to keep doing it the same way, because I've got to deal with this and I have to deal with that. And this just went haywire and I've got to deal with it. So it takes real commitment to make that change. And I agree with you. I'm optimistic that we can see that with the administrations and the approach and just their demeanor and how they interact and their straightforwardness and accountability in being present more than maybe we've seen in the past. So I'm optimistic there. But let me, and I'm not trying to, we've got a lot to cover here, and I want to, be respectful of your time. Do you think Erie's a racist town?
No, I don't. Do I believe there are racists in Erie? Yes.
Sure.
Do I think there are policies and or systems that work against people of color and other marginalized people? Yes, I do. But I wouldn't market or describe Erie as a racist town at all. there are towns that in America that can show real racism, but I think the races get along relatively well here in Erie. I believe that there are some areas that can be improved, like the police recognize they need a better relationship with people in the community, particularly people of color. And I think that there has been an effort over the years on different administrations' parts to improve upon that. And some want to do it this way, some want to do it that way, but they're not hiding the fact that there are areas that we can do different. And so, but to label Erie as a racist town, no, I wouldn't do that.
Do you think that the story saying that we had the poorest zip code in the world, in the country for African Americans, I know how those things are put together, and it is what variables do you want? You can whatever variables you come up with, and I'm not arguing it, but there are some statistical things, and I guess the question is, did that help us? Did that hurt us? Did that change nothing?
I think it was a reality check that there are a significant number of people who believe that black people have a hard time in Erie for many reasons. And I think the attention that was given that made us deal with it at that time. It didn't surprise me. There are a lot of people who were not surprised by that. If you go back, I think that report came out in 2000 and what?
18, probably 17, something like
somewhere in there. But if you can recall, the 1990 census told us we had serious variances in the demographics, and that the blacks ranked first in the nation in poverty, according to the Children's Defense Fund report after the 1990 census. And it had Latinos ranked right up there at the top, too. Now, I would ask the question, how did Erie address that? What, if they believed it, what things were done to mitigate that, to improve upon that? And there's not a lot you can hang your hat on and say, well, we did this and we did this and we did this. We measured that didn't work, we tried this, or any of that. So when that report came out, a person like me who remembered that census and how the 2000 census, although it didn't rank Erie first in the nation amongst minorities living in poverty, it was still significant. And I don't think we as a community have dealt with that.
Yep, I would agree with you. I think that I do see an approach and some of the work that and again, I believe it's at its beginning stages, but I do believe that some of the work that Infinite Erie is doing as far as identifying projects to move forward that are kind of built around, demonstrate how this project's going to address a compelling issue in the community. I think that's a very important first step because it gets people asking the questions. If we're going to take some of our treasure and put into this, or we're going to use our political influence to talk to the state or federal government to put some of their treasure into our projects, demonstrate to us, show us how this is going to make an impact on the community. I think that one of the biggest challenges that Erie has to face, and this is true across the country, is an old phrase that there's the only thing more challenging than a crisis is the lack of one. And my observation, having worked in Erie for 30 years, is that we've dripped oil out of the engine for 50 years. The engine didn't blow up, but it's been losing oil for 50 years. And so we trickle into really bad situations. We don't slam into them. And what that does is it allows what you talked about a little bit earlier about, it allows the status quo. It allows us to kind of glaze over challenging things. And I do think that people are talking about the right issues. They are definitely talking about affordable housing and home ownership now more than they ever have. And that they're proactively addressing the homelessness issue, which I think is a challenge everywhere, right? It's a challenge everywhere. You bring up something, and I know you work a lot with the new American populations. I think one of our shining stars, and I'm going to have Katie Kretz on here in a week or two to talk more in depth about this. I think what we have done as a community in refugee resettlement over the decades is a true testament to the entire community.
Well, I think Erie has always been a resettlement community. When you look at the work that the Jehosaphites, the Sisters of Mercy, the Benedictines have done over the years, they've always helped resettle people, whether you call them a refugee or
right.
someone who was fleeing war or American policy somewhere. So when you look at the work that they've done, and they've done a great job in resettling immigrants and helping immigrants recognize the beauty, and those immigrants have added value to our community. There's still a segment of those new arrivals that happen to look like me, that those same opportunities have not been open for. And yet the community always has recognized some people in the community, the value of them. If I just talk about education for a moment, education is the key to solving poverty and uplifting and improving our community. And for 40 years or more, the universities in our city fought against a community college coming to Erie, access to low-cost quality education. It took 29 years for Erie the state hadn't awarded a new community college application in 29 years. The minority population and the poor people recognized more than the chamber or those that supported a community college, that talked about all the advantages of retraining the workforce and everything that a community college could do. The biggest beneficiary of a viable community college would be the poor people who were robbed while the whole community sat by silent at what the private schools were doing to them. I know families that are still in debt from trying the private college avenue, only to get a certificate that the universities and colleges would not recognize or accept, or the employer. And so these people realize, and we fought for a community college. Now the community college comes. It's a fact of life. It's as far away from the populations that need it as you can get.
Where it is now, you mean?
Where it is now. It's as far away. All the work that we've done over the years trying to help improve access and inclusion of a lot of populations, transportation always came up as a barrier.
You can get it is on 8th Street. It is you say it's as far away. It is totally accessible.
Perception as well as reality. And that it's as far away from us as you can get it. It's not even in Erie.
So is that why people? I mean, our community college is grossly underutilized in my mind,
because
given that it's free.
Okay, so that you're answering your own question about the access of it. If it was closer to where the people are who need it, maybe more of those people would access or utilize it.
But we're not going to change the location of it. It is set. So
Well,
how do we grow the enrollment?
We do outreach. We place. I'm an advocate for that community college to provide services out of Burton School, which is in my neighborhood. which is almost half the neighborhood are kids 18 and under. A third of them households are headed by single women.
Are they bringing services out there?
And the and then there's a significant number of new Americans that live on the east side. So to say that there's access to go way out to Mill Creek on the west side because there's a bus that rides through there, it's a long way for poor people to be able. You can't access north, the railroad and the highway, and if you access south, the Buffalo Road, the bank left, the pharmacy closed, the school closed, the bakery closed. What we have are smoke and vape shops, drinking establishments, gaming places. Those are things that are closer to that population than cheap or no cost quality education. So that access that you described is a figment of some people's imagination, and that you got to have something going with you else other than, oh, it's free and it's out there to be able to get out of that neighborhood and over there. I'm an advocate.
Proximity does not guarantee participation.
Not by itself.
No, of course it doesn't.
No, not by itself.
So awareness, outreach, understanding,
trust, investment. We deserve to have our neighborhoods invested into. We deserve to have those not just jobs, but educational resources more readily available or accessible for us too. And that we shouldn't always be challenged. You got to get up and go out there and go get it. When in your neighborhood, when you do your demographics and you do your market analysis and all that, from where we sit, all indications point out, why ain't that thing closer to us? And that, why ain't it more in our neighborhood? And that. And from an economic standpoint, we see increase in the opportunity for the college to get more students if they did address those things.
Well, I think the issue of the market penetration to our community college, given the economics, and I 100% agree with you that for the average household in Erie, Pennsylvania, the community college, especially the way it has been priced, is an absolute must. It was needed because the bridge, people would say, oh, it's only this much. And I always said, if somebody said, well, you probably could go to Gannon or Mercier's for $10,000 a year. When you're talking to someone who has no resources, $10,000 might as well be $100,000, $200,000.
And to get to them colleges, it's more like $50,000 or $60,000.
Well, I get that. I'm trying to give the relative scale.
Well, give the real costs. Don't say
$10,000.
No. Because even the private schools that gave them fake paper cost more than $10,000.
Well, our community college is an asset. What you're talking about, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm more of, we have to get more students enrolled in there. I do believe that it is underutilized. I believe it's an asset. I believe it is going to continue to evolve and grow. I believe that the community held it back from, I'm not going to point at institutions or individuals. I think there was gross misunderstanding in this community about what a community college was. And I was first exposed, having not been around one, when I was in graduate school in Illinois. And when I saw it, I remember saying to my classmates, well, that's the future of higher education right there. I'm like, that makes brilliant sense. So when it came about in the community, the first time it really hit the radar screen significantly was the Bosworth report that came out in like 2001 as one of the top recommendations. And it laid dormant for a while. And then there was a series of efforts, and we finally got it. So I'm excited that we have it. I hear what you're saying, and we've got to take better advantage of an asset that's in our backyard. And along the way, I think that your concerns about access being closer to the populations to perhaps get them started and jump-started to then make the travel to the campus, I think there's things that can be done. Yeah. And I think that they have done some of those satellite working efforts and partnerships to offer courses to help build enrollment.
I agree with that. And the other asset on the east side is the number of industry that is there.
That's right.
And if you put closer to those businesses the kind of training that helps them grow their workforce and improve their workforce's training, you'll probably attract more students also at that. So it just come down to making a commitment for me on the east side to have some kind of presence, and that will give the people on the east side, whether it's industry that's west on East 12th or McClellan, or along the not the Bayfront Highway, but the exchange coming into Erie from Penn State. There are a number of advantages I see, and why I advocate for bringing a community college presence to the east side in a significant way, not in a Band-Aid way, in a significant way that helps you not just provide access, but build trust. People have to trust it. Because remember, the poor people's experience with the private colleges didn't work out so well for them at all. And that now here we come again saying, okay, trust us again. And that it's cheaper. And we got a nice big old new shiny building over here. And that all you have to do is get on the bus and come to it. That might as well be in another city to some people. And
Yeah.
So we do have work to do.
No, I think your point about trust is well taken, and also my bias of saying, come on, just get on a bus and travel over is an ignorant one, because I don't live on the east side, and I don't know the challenges of transportation across town, or why would I do that? What's the welcome wagon there for me at the community college? It's going into a different world. Who do they even want me there? Right? I mean, there's a lot of variables there that it, and trust is kind of implicit in that, is building a relationship, and I think that's a big part of what you were just talking about. So Chris Gray, if you're listening, we'll get Chris Gray on here, and I'll just start.
I believe that Chris Gray recognizes that.
He does.
And I believe that Chris Gray, not having been here during the run-up to getting the community college, is learning that about Erie.
He is,
and that I'm all for giving Chris Gray a chance, an opportunity to do that, and to work with Chris Gray to make that happen. But none of that is worth anything if Chris Gray and the community college is not listening, and that's why
he is very open to dialogue and conversations. He's and I think this is a very worthwhile conversation for the two of you to have, and
but not just the two of us.
But
because,
you're right, yes.
Because we have a new county executive who has some stake in this. She
was on the board of the community
college. We have a new mayor who has some stake in this. Well, they want to change the status quo. They want to improve Erie County and the city of Erie for everyone.
But
and the community college is a tool or a resource. Getting it right is necessary for them to be on board with that.
Gary, you know what? That's a great example of changing the status quo. There is the status quo we're changing is how do we take an asset we have invested in and created and make sure that it's being utilized at its highest level. That is super positive changing of the status quo.
Right.
And it has to be intentional. The tools that we need to train the workforce for the jobs that are here and are going to be here, to me, I've always believed they are in place. They may not be optimized, but they are in place. And it doesn't mean they can't be improved, but we have the tools that we need here. And one of the things that anyone who listens to this show or listens to me over time is and I'm not taking credit for it. It was Tom Ridge who said it. the simple phrase of we have to get people to understand all work is honorable. Going to work is an honorable thing, and we need to get our young people and our middle-aged people and everyone to understand and respect going and earning a wage and putting in a hard day's work, which you and your siblings did because you saw your parents do it, understand completely.
And I'm happy to know the history of Booker T. Washington, who was also an advocate of that there's dignity in work, dignity in labor. And I can just give you a couple of examples of like Wabtec, former GE, on the east side, surrounded by future workers that have no idea what's going on in GE or Wabtec. People who have resettled here from other countries. That English may be a little barrier right now, but they have it. They're either from a farming, agricultural country, or they're working with machines and small motors and stuff like that. They're right in the shadow of some of this industry around. But that industry is surrounded by guards and dogs and fences, and the people outside they're sitting right there next to it, have no idea how much opportunity is right across the street or right down the block. And so we've got to bring that more together. And that when I can see that a Wabtec can get a couple $1 billion contract, I'm thinking, will that result in any jobs or training opportunity for people in our neighborhood that are in the shadow of Wabtec and that have some ability to be trained to be a part of their future workforce. But there has to be some conversation about and recognition about that this is an opportunity to be seeded or nurtured or whatever in that, as opposed to just letting things go as they do. And that's another reason why I think the East Side is a good place for the community college to have a presence, not move from where they are to there, but invest in that neighborhood and be able to say to the people and to the industry in that neighborhood, we're bringing our asset to you. And that now, how do we work together to benefit all parties? And that the people, the industry, and the school itself. And that we're not downtown.
Yep.
We're not.
Well, I think that we're at a situation right now, Gary, I think on a number of fronts, and with this most recent election with new leadership at the city and the county, I really, truly believe we're at a point at which we can kind of return to how we had done it in the past, where I think the conversations and the connections to say, let's really seriously look at this and swing at this. Mm-hmm. So, Gary, thank you so much for being here. I love talking to you.
Let's do it again.
Yep. We will definitely do it again. Thanks for everything that you have done. Your perspectives today have been outstanding and refreshing, and I learned a lot, and I'm really grateful that we met so many years ago, and I love to call you my friend.
Well, I've always told people that Erie is a relationship town, and they don't just start at the latter golden years of your life, and that some of us we met when we had hair. When we didn't have pot bellies, when we were full of the excitement and the hope that young people have today in our community. That's something I'd be happy to come back and talk about. That I think you mentioned that to me once before about the activism, the new activists in our community.
I would love
the
that.
State of young people.
I would love that.
So,
I'd like to have you come back with a couple of the young folks that you're working with and get their perspective on the world, because I think it'd be refreshing for everyone to hear.
Yes. Thanks again for the invitation. Look forward to the next time.
Thanks, Gary. Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah.